Omid and Kojo Show.
Hello, mate.
What are you giggling about?
I was just being incredibly silly.
Oh, okay, classic mate. Oh, Omid.
Ah.
Speaking of silly,
Mm.
when I was at the park today training,
Yeah.
all kinds of mad shit was happening.
Go on.
So first, I'm like just about to do my combo, and I hear all this barking and squawking, and there was like two dogs chasing a chicken, but not just for a bit, like across the whole field. They did like a lap. They were like nearly catching it, and then it would flap a bit, and they couldn't catch this chicken. And then there was an old man chasing the dog, chasing the chickens, like shouting in Portuguese. And I was just trying to focus on my combo, and this was going on the whole time. This crazy chase. And then literally about a minute after that, then this guy's just, because there's a path next to the grass, he's just cycling along, and it's like it's the path and then like a grassy hill, and then where I am. And he's just kind of going really slowly, and he just keeps slowing down, and then just kind of goes like this, and just falls sideways and rolls down the hill. And he didn't react. He wasn't like pissed or upset, or it didn't seem to, he just kind of got up and then slowly like walked up the hill, picked up his bike, got back on, and was just like, and just carried on cycling. I was like, what was that? I think he was drugged up. You know, I think he was on a lot of drugs, because he was just like, he fell off just because he slowed down so much. He was cycling in slow motion and then just kind of fell really slowly and rolled down a hill.
This is like a scene out of a show or a movie or something, where they're trying to like distract the protagonist as much as possible with the most outrageous shit that could happen. And you're just like trying to do your flips.
It worked. The flips didn't go. I don't know. They weren't great today.
Oh,
There's too many shenanigans.
You've just reminded me of one time I saw a cyclist cycling across the road, and there were these two women driving. Well, there was one woman driving, two in the car, and then they pulled out on him.
Yeah.
He just erupted. Like they didn't touch him, but they nearly did. And he erupted. He threw his bike. This was back when we lived at the Coop years and years ago, right around the corner. He threw his bike, slammed his hands on the bonnet, and then these two enormous women got out of the car, and he just like immediately just went, "Oh yeah, sorry, you just kind of pissed me off." But like he just immediately changed when he saw these women. They would have tore him apart like a chicken wing. It was so funny.
Mental.
I was doing flips today.
Oh yeah, how are they? How are they going?
Not too bad. Not too good. My quads are kind of hurting because I walked up a mountain the other day. Walked up a big hill, and my quads are hurting a little bit. But I was just kind of moving about, trying to like do pieces of combos and stuff. I was really enjoying it, just trying to do strange things that I don't normally work on. Like I was trying to do swing 9 double out of master scoot, because I want to do Webster hyper, master scoot, swing 9 double, vanish snapu.
Oh, that'd be cool. I could see that with your mid legs flopping,
twanging them about.
Yeah. But
on one of the side slopes, right, because I've walked up this big hill, my quad just like, I don't know, it just tensed up so much. I was like, okay, enough of that. It was bad.
How's the adductor?
Good, actually. Well, the right one, which is the one that's been injured for the longest time, it's not fine, but I don't think it's injured anymore. I think it's just got a little bit of a weakness. So I'm just trying to like build the strength with tricks and not do anything where I'm cracking my legs open too much, and then also condition. But now the left adductor is feeling pretty shit, so I don't really know. I don't know. Maybe it's one of those things, because I don't know about you, but I've had injuries in the past where, with my back in particular, I'll start with an injury at the bottom of my back, and then months will go by, and by the time the injury's like done, it's moved 3 or 4 different places.
No, I've had that. I've had that with my back as well, especially, and in my leg as well. Just it feels like kind of moves around different parts of my leg, but it's normally a sign that it's on the way out. In some
Yeah,
ways,
yeah,
I've
yeah.
found like when it does feel worse in a different place, then after that, it normally kind of gets better.
Oi, who you calling big ears? Pussy. We got someone in the
What do you
chat
always
giving me
say?
the biggin, calling
I
me big
agree with
ears.
you, big ears. Hee a tee.
Oi.
What?
Well, I was gonna respond to him and say something really nasty about his mother, but instead I'm just gonna block him.
No need, mate. No need. You got lovely big ears. I like them. I got little ears. I got little ears like Shrek.
Well, I was talking about my big ears the other day, about how
What?
they've been exactly the same size since birth.
they barely fit out.
I'm not even joking. Like when I was a kid, they were the same. Like it was just like imagine this is my head, but it was just like these massive ears on the side.
And this really skinny body. For anyone who doesn't know, Omid, when I met Omid, he was the skinniest human alive. It's like you could do this around his bicep.
Yeah, I was malnourished.
Yeah,
I was
Omid,
fully
it was like
malnourished.
Slenderman's son. Slender
The son of Slender Man. Yo.
He had all these tentacles as well.
Yeah, I don't know what happened to them. They just kind of disappeared.
Yeah, they just fell off.
So what's going on with the tricking world at the moment? Is there anything? Did we talk about hooks not happening?
I mean, you probably mentioned it. Yeah.
I wonder what it's going to be like when Hook does go on a game. I wonder if it's going to be harder for them to make it as good as it was previously because of
the COVID.
Yeah.
It'll be more exciting, I tell you that, because think about it. It will be a long enough period of time without having loads of trickers together that there'll be loads of new people who are really good. Because if you're like, think of some guy who could like just about, I don't know, maybe they're at the level where they're doing like snafu swipes and triple cork just about or whatever. It's like in a year they can get a lot better, but only so much. But 2 years, you can go from a kind of that level to being someone like really sick that you're going to want to pay attention to. So I think there'll be some new people who we've not seen before who are like really impressive with what they're doing. So I'm looking forward to that. It's a good amount of time in between.
Yeah, I mean, I forgot about that as well, because whenever you do any gathering you go to, there's always at least one person that you've never heard of, and you're watching them trick, and you're looking at everyone like, who the fuck is this dude? Like, I've never seen his tricks, and he's just killing shit, doing things in a weird way, or doing like really high level shit, and it's super exciting. I love that, because before that seemed to happen a lot more, but obviously now because of Instagram and YouTube and everyone just like, I don't know, churning out the content.
Yeah, I've noticed that's a big one of the negatives of seeing stuff from everyone all the time. You don't get surprised, because think of some of the coolest things you've seen throughout the year from like all of the top trickers, and it is cool. It's obviously cool, like seeing what everyone's working on. Like Shosei, you see pretty much everything good he does. You see it within a few days. But imagine you hadn't seen anything for like 6 months, and then you got to see him at Hooked, because there'd just be all these brand new moves that he like has that no one had ever seen. It would be so much hype, so much more hype than like just seeing them all along the way. But I get the need for it. Yeah,
for sure.
Like Shosei, I get the benefits of it, but it would be fun if it's like if it was a surprise. It would just be fun for everyone at the gathering anyway.
Well, I was saying, I can't remember who it was that suggested this, but a few years ago at Hooked, there was a conversation going on about how it would be cool if there was some weird, like, imagine if samplers were in like displayed in like the form of an art gallery. Nobody had seen any of the samplers, and they were all like really well filmed, really well put together, and they were all just like on iPads or on big screens around the room. So you could go in and like put these big headphones on, and you could like really submerge yourself in the sampler.
They're all unseen footage.
All unseen footage. Like imagine if all the best trickers in the world had samplers like that, or even if it was just like, I don't know, 10 or 12 or 20 or whatever, like a bunch of samplers where a lot of work has gone into them over the course of the year, and then it's all just on this iPad, and you have to pay a little bit of money to get in, and then the money goes towards the people that are making the samplers. I think
just having that as like an add-on to a big gathering like Hooked would be really, really cool, actually.
Yeah,
like, because the way you could do it, because you got to think, like, how do you incentivize these trickers to do this? And I think, like, you could either say, like, for the people who get their samplers featured, they get like funding towards making the sampler, like you pay them, or you could have it so there's a prize for, like, people vote for their favorite one, and then that.
Well, you
and
could
if
do
it's
it.
like a decent prize, then it'd be an incentive for people to do it.
Well, you could actually do all of those things. So let's say, for example, the event said, like, okay, there's prize money of, like, I don't know, 500 euros, 250 euros, however much, and then in order to watch the samplers, there's like a small fee, not a ridiculous amount, like a couple of euros or whatever, and then all of that money is then distributed to the 10 people that also.
I think you'd be better off. I think you'd be much better off just including it in the price of the gathering.
Well, yeah, I guess. I know. I'm just because I guess I haven't really spoken to any gathering hosts in a while, but I always have this view that gatherings just don't make enough money, so they're always trying to, like, cut costs with things, so they're not adding little things on. But I guess with Hooked it is completely different. Like, they go that extra mile in order to make it as good as possible.
Yeah, they're always looking for feedback and stuff for how they can make it, like, even better. But yeah, that would be a cool thing, cool way to bring back samplers. If it was like, because think of when Big was shown at Hooked, that was pretty cool. Because it was like a brand new thing, and people sat all the way through it. Like, a decent amount of people sat through the whole film.
Yeah, I was pretty shocked about that, because it's a lengthy thing.
The whole film, like, yeah.
Yeah, but because Peen did such a good job in making it and putting it together, it's kind of gripping the whole way through, and, like, you get really invested.
Well, another thing you could do, like a different angle to people going around kind of throughout the event and watching them, is having like the sampler exhibition night thing, but set it up really cool. So you have like massive projector screen, so it's like a cinema screen, really good speakers, like some kind of really comfortable laid out, so with the big bean bags and stuff. Like, just make it kind of an experience. That would be a cool part of the gathering.
Yeah, I don't know. It's always, I feel like that's been done so many times,
but never well.
But it's always half-assed. It's always just like, we'll get the projector, but nothing else. You got to sit in this cold gym with no food or I don't know, anything. Like at Hook, you could do it so that there was like the bar real nearby, so you can get a couple of beers or whatever, and you could just sit and drink and just have a great time. I think that would make it lovely if you added all these little extra bits.
Yeah, there's a lot that can be done with gatherings in the future, which would be really cool. But I miss them. All this talk of tricking gatherings, it's making me miss them a bit.
Yeah, I mean,
COVID, and it's ruined everything. It's caused a lot of faff.
I feel like the thing I'm looking forward to most is the excitement of everybody, because it's going to be like our first gathering for everyone.
Yeah, true.
Everyone's going to be so hype again. And the tricks, and everyone's going to be so excited to see one another. Like, whatever the first biggest gathering is that goes on, is going to be one of the hypest gatherings of all time. Because it'll be one of the longest periods where there hasn't been any gatherings at all, and not of that size as well, because they're few and far between. So if it's like 2 years, it's going to be fucking sick. I can't wait.
Someone said, "Are your guys' gatherings closed due to COVID?" All the gatherings are.
Yeah.
Pretty much. I mean, maybe some small local ones in places, but all the international events, pretty done.
Yeah, they're dead though.
But yeah, Omid, tell me something. What's something you've learned recently, like about a trick or approach in general? Tell me something interesting you've learned.
What have I learned? Okay, weird one. I've been thinking about why. This is one that I haven't really pieced together in my head. So bear with me and work with me through it. Like, I always feel pretty confined to a particular way of doing moves, but then the second you change the axis completely, but you also relax while doing it, it changes everything. So I was trying this thing. You know when I do that like B kick late 9 thing that I do.
Yeah.
I tried to do that, but complete the horizontal and see if I could get back to my feet. And I realized that because I was so stiff, I couldn't do it. But then the second I relaxed while doing it, it changed everything.
So like a helicopter.
Kind of, but it's not the way I envisioned it. It was more like as I take off, it's like a B kick, and then I invert loads, and then the kick comes over my chest like this. But then I get back to my feet, and it ends up kind of being a late 9. But it's a weird one.
Exactly like a helicopter. Like
it didn't look like that at all.
Okay, they just look different. Yeah, I've
got it on my camera. Yeah, but
you know, some things can kind of take off the same and do a similar thing in the air, but it's a different move.
But because of the change in the axis while I was doing it, because I had the relaxation throughout the trick, it just kind of opened my eyes. And this was literally like the last session I had, which was earlier last week, and it kind of opened my eyes as to ways that I can kind of create weirder movements, but through not trying less, but just relaxing at different points. Because I'm always so focused on keeping everything so in control, which means that like I tense a lot more. And when I start trying to relax in different places, it means that I can get into stranger positions that my body would naturally avoid. And it means I can get in weird places, which is...
Well, that's something that I mentioned as well, like a couple of weeks back.
Yeah,
it's something you don't think about that much because and it's something you can't see when you're analyzing clips as well. Because I realized like I made a change to my technique where if you looked at any frame, you looked at the exact takeoff frame, it was the same as before, but the move came out way differently. Because sometimes like just the amount of tension through your body can make a huge difference.
Yeah, and the timing in which you make
when you put power in. Yeah.
Because that's something that I always kind of, I don't know, I'm pretty like, generally I'm pretty linear with my approach. It's either like I'm super tense and super explosive at this point, and then I might relax in the middle, and then I tense again. But there's never like a moment where I take off and just kind of let my body relax, and then I kick into something.
That's what makes tricking look cool, I think, a lot of it. Because I feel like you can learn a lot from this. I always learn a lot from what looks bad. Think about tricks and trickers who kind of do it in a way where it looks really bad. I think normally if you like the same amount of tense all the way through everything, then it just makes it not look good. There's one thing that really stands out about Ilya. It's kind of like the rapid just extend. It's not like the whole thing he's forcing through and forcing the kick and forcing the landing. There's power just in certain bits. Because if you think about it, good analogy, think of like a plane taking off. You feel the acceleration, but when you're going at that speed, you don't feel it as much. And I think it's the same with tricking. If you're like just going at full speed, but it's the same all the way through, then it's just not as exciting. It's like if the whole thing was the crescendo, it wouldn't really work. If the whole thing's like the hypest point, that doesn't make the song more hype, does it? So
no, that's true.
I think the same thing applies in tricking. It's like the contrast between like doing things slowly and relaxed to doing things really explosive and extended is what makes it like exciting to watch. Yeah,
and using the same kind of patterns but with levels, where it's like I'm really high in the air, and then now I'm really low but really fast.
And now he's on his chest.
Yeah, you can just but then it's like you've got so many things that you can play with, doing the same tricks on the exact same combo as somebody else. But if you just do it at like different speeds and different heights when you're doing these tricks, it can change the whole combo and make it look like a completely different thing.
Yeah,
that's something.
I was talking to Jay Knight about that the other day. How like it's an underutilized thing. Everyone's always talking about what move they're doing, but that's not like just doing a certain like trick name doesn't actually make it that much cooler. Like because I was talking to him about wrap full punch full D-leg. Now that could just be a standard thing that you see all the time, or that could be a thing where everyone at the gathering's blown away screaming. But it's the same combo. But it's just about how you do it and what you put emphasis on. Like, is my focus, instead of adding that extra twist or another variation in, you could try and make it the highest it could possibly be. Like when Keenan Carr does a full D-leg, it's way more impressive than most full D-leg twists that you see.
Yeah, 100%.
Just because instead of the twist, he's focusing on the height, which is
Mm.
just a different way to make something look cool.
Yeah, he's a really good example, actually. I forget about him because he, like, when, especially that in particular, the perfect example. Like, the full D leg is mad high, but then if he does like a punch Arabian or something out of it, he does it in
Low
such an
fast.
interesting way, and like low and fast, and like you'll variate it a little bit, and it just looks high.
All right. I wanted to respond to one of these comments, by the way, because someone asked when the Ultimate Court Guide's gonna be done, and yeah, I wanted to talk to you about that, Omid, because I haven't mentioned it. I'm having a bit of a nightmare with that. Jesus.
Why is it too much?
You know, after my lens,
Oh
there's
yeah,
still
yeah.
water on the lens, and it kind of, I've tried to dry it, but it's still a bit messed up, and it's like £260 for a new one like that. And then I have my other lens, but it's not so good for filming like examples. And then I tried to film examples yesterday with João, little João, but I was filming a cork snapu tutorial with him as well. And by the time we filmed the cork snapu tutorial, ran out of battery, like both my batteries, because it took quite a long time. And yeah, there's just been a lot of setbacks with it. Like, the whole thing's planned, and I have a clear idea of what I want to do. And I filmed some bits of it, like the critical eye section I've already started on. But yeah, it's hard. It's hard, so it's probably going to take a while. Just because I moved country, and it's not that easy moving country. I've got a lot of things to do all the time, and I'm trying to learn Portuguese, and it's hard. It's all hard at the moment.
I've been thoroughly enjoying the updates.
Yeah, I getting through it, but yeah, it's not easy.
Just a quick interjection. There's a comment here saying from Saba. Right, I'm going to try and say the surname just because it's hilarious if I get it right. Sumbolashvili. All right, word. Said, I have difficulty finding motivation, and that is my biggest difficulty. So if you can give me one advice, it would mean the world to me. I love you guys. Right. I have a question for you because I'm just intrigued. So respond in the comments. Why? Like, what do you not have motivation for? And why do you want to do tricks if you're struggling with the motivation? Anyway, we can get back into it. I'm just intrigued to see what he has to say.
That is an interesting one, because I wonder, yeah, like I've answered a lot of questions about tricking related things and made a lot of videos about how to overcome fear and how to get over struggle tricks that you're really bad at, and all sorts of topics like that. But one topic that I'm not good at teaching is this one, which does come up, like, people are like, oh, how do I find motivation? Because it's like, it's not your job. It's not like you need to get motivated to go study or work. It's like, it's something for fun. So if you don't feel motivated, then you don't want to do it then, do you? It's like you think of it with a video game, because it's no more important than a video game. It's like you saying, oh, I just don't have the motivation to play COD. It's like, well, don't play COD then. Like, you clearly don't want to do it that bad. Like, I don't have the motivation to play COD. So I don't play it. And so if you're struggling with motivation for tricking, then do you actually like tricking? Well, that's what I wonder.
That's why I asked the question. Yeah. Because like, for example, playing COD. Like, I don't have the motivation to play Call of Duty. I do actually enjoy it. I enjoy playing zombies or playing online or whatever, but I never have the thought to do it. And it's because I just don't care all that much. Whereas for tricking, for me, so the only things that I don't have motivation to do are sometimes the things that surround tricking, like the stretching and conditioning, all that kind of thing, because that's not as fun as tricking. And I just kind of see it as, like, I find it difficult to understand why you would want somebody to help you be motivated to do something that is meant to be fun.
So something, the only point of it is for it to be fun, really. So
I just don't really get it, because for me, like, unless you want to turn it into a career, and because it's so niche, why would you have motivation issues? I just can't wrap my head around it. If, for example, if it's like you've got a plateau problem or anything like that, then I've got a whole gang of advice for you. But a lot of it's pretty easy and not too difficult to figure out, you know.
But that's I don't know. It is an interesting one. Like, we're not trying to hate on it really, because
No, not at all.
I know for both of us it's a struggle like understanding it. Like,
Yeah.
okay, he's responded. He said, I learn a few tricks and go on them for a few months, and then I lose motivation. I really can't understand why, and it comes back again most of the time. But delay is big and progression is slow. Like, yeah, definitely your progression's going to be really slow if you do that. So you've just got to decide, like, do you want to just trick when you feel like it for fun and just do tricks? You won't get that good doing that if you haven't breaks all the time. You just won't really get anywhere, because tricking is hard. Like, it's not just going to happen. Or do you want to be as good as possible, which is kind of a completely different thing. If you want to be as good as possible and get lots of like the enjoyment from actually getting better, not just from doing flips. Like, if you want to get enjoyment from that, like the overall enjoyment that you feel kind of every day, even when you're not tricking, because you're getting better at something that you care about, then when you're not motivated, it's your tricking day. This is when you decided to trick, you've rested or whatever. You go out and trick. It doesn't matter if you're motivated or not. It doesn't matter if you feel like it. You go out and trick. You're really tired. You do aerial. You do gainer. You just drill as basic as you want, but you make it as good as possible, and that way you'll just keep improving.
Well, a couple of things I want to add. One, I'm not too sure if that was the angle he was coming from. I can't say for sure, obviously, but I think what he's saying is, I think what he's saying is he doesn't learn very many tricks, and because he doesn't learn very many tricks, he stays on the tricks that he can do for a while, and then he loses motivation because he feels like he's not progressing, and then the lack of motivation stops him from progressing even further. So it's like a bit of a vicious cycle, and that's something I do understand a hell of a lot more. But my answer to that, especially when I was younger, was pretty simple. Might not be the best advice, but just train way more. Like, if you, whatever you're currently doing, just do, like, if you're doing 2 days a week, then do 6 days a week. Like, and they don't have to be huge sessions. Just do 6 days a week of like 30 to 45-minute sessions, not including the warm-up, and your body will be able to handle it. Not straight away. You got to build up to it, but then I guarantee you'll start seeing much bigger progression than you had previously. And then
you get a lot better. So
I
don't know. It's an interesting one. I think you should have a good think about it. About like, what do you actually want to do with tricking? Like, do you want to get as good as possible? That's a good question to ask yourself. Like, is that important to you? Is how good you get important to you, or do you just enjoy doing the flips? Because those are two very different approaches to like how you're gonna like tackle this, really. Because if you just enjoy the flips, it doesn't matter too much.
Well, I know for me, those two things were synonymous. It was the same thing. So there was never even a question as to whether I wanted to get as good as possible. And the main reason was because initially I didn't know enough about it, but I knew that I liked the feeling of tricks once I had got them to a point where they were easier. Because tricking gets way more fun the better you are at it. That's just the reality of it. And that's kind of the case with everything. So because they were the same thing, it was like I wanted to get as good as possible because I loved, like, this was a phase because it became so much deeper than that. But I wanted to get as good as possible because it felt better when I was good at the tricks. Because there's nothing quite like doing a combo that's super floaty and super high and it goes really well. And then it leads you further and further into the sport. And you
were more on the side of wanting to get really good, though, definitely, because there's lots of people who come to the gym who love doing flips, but there's a difference. That doesn't mean they're like pushing to get better all the time.
No, but I didn't love doing bad flips. That's the thing. I hated it. Like, I hated it when it was a struggle. Like when I was doing cork and stuff and I couldn't do it properly. And like, when you do things with the correct technique, it feels way more fun. It feels way easier and it feels nicer on the body. It's like if you're running and you're keeping both your arms down by your sides and you're just trying to make it as difficult as possible, it's not going to be enjoyable. But if you're running and you're trying to use the right mechanics and running on the balls of your feet or like whatever's most comfortable for you, then you'll have a much better time. And it's easier to then push through the pain of like 6, 7, 8, 9 miles and whatever. And sorry, carry on.
Go on. No,
I was going to say, the only other thing is I see my analogy for tricking is kind of like a relationship. like a lot of the time, the earlier stages, it's like a whirlwind romance, and you're having a blast, and you're like, fucking hell, this is like the best thing ever. But then after a bit, you do have to work at it, even when you might not quite want to, because
It's not
in this
always
case, your
so
body
fun.
hurts. Yeah, but it ends up being worth it in the end.
We got this kind of links into like later stage tricking. This is something that I've really learned a lot about recently, and I think we both have to some extent. But Akib or whatever says, one question I got for you guys: how do you guys deal with the next day pains after a hard day of training the day before? Because this leads to having a few days off with me personally. Now, this is something that for maybe like 7-8 years that I did. I'm not happy. If I could go back, I would have done very differently. Because let's say, for example, let's take cart double full. You want to be really good at cart double full. Now, you could go out, you could try your cart dubs for like 2 hours straight, trying your absolute best, trying to squeeze that dub, trying to force it. And let's say you attempt like 50 dubs. Yeah, it doesn't really matter. Maybe you land something, you land like 25 of those 50 dubs. So you've done that one day, and then your body's super sore and really hurts for any form of training for at least the next 2 days after that. Now, instead of that, what you could have done is you could have done 50 reps worth of cart full, trying to set it as high as you can with control and trying to make your cartwheel as powerful as possible, and then feel not bad the next day. And then you could go on the trampoline and you could practice your you could practice the dub bit. So your takeoff for your cart dub, you could do like 80, 100 reps of that on a trampoline, and you wouldn't feel bad at all the next day. And then the day after that, you could go and do another 50 reps in your session, trying to do these really high set cart fulls, cart full hyper, cart full D-leg, making your cartwheel as powerful as possible. And that way, you've trained 100 times, you've done cartwheel popping out with as much power, trying to get loads of height like you would for your dub, trying to set it more on that variation, more height axis. So you've done 100 reps of that out of your cart. You've repped out the actual dub part. So you've drilled the air awareness and the twisting for that about 100 times. And the next day, you're probably not even going to be feeling that bad. So maybe you could have that day off, and then the day after you're training again, and you can try cart dub, and you probably do a lot better at it. Whereas the other method, it felt like you were training harder. It felt like you were going for it and not being lazy and not backing away. But really, you didn't actually make as much progress towards your cart dub, towards getting it consistently, as if you approached it the other method. And that's something I do a lot now. Like if I'm on the grass, I could squeeze, like today, I could have forced triple cork or whatever. Like, I know that I can do it and squeeze it round. But what's just as useful, because I can do like 5 times, 10 times as many, is if I just do touchdown raise and practice getting my cork variations as high and controlled as possible, making my touchdown raise as long and powerful as possible. And then that means I'm not going to be that sore tomorrow, so I can train again. I can get way more reps. I can make my takeoff way better. And then when I'm in the gym, then I'll just do my triple corks every time. And I won't be anywhere near as worn down by it. And I'll get less injuries. So overall, that's a much better way to train. But it took me like 8 years to realize.
Well, there's two small things to add on to that. Just something that really resonated with me that helped. And it was something completely unrelated to tricking, but somebody said, don't just do work for work's sake. And that really kind of made me understand it, because I would always have this when I was younger. I would have this approach where it's like, don't be a bitch, you've got to do more. But it's a stupid approach if you're not doing it in a methodical manner, because you can just do these things over and over again and slam and slam and slam, but you're not going to make as much progress as if you did, for example, the double full example. If you did all the cart full variations 150 more times, and you could spread that across 3 days, you've got more enjoyment because you've spent more time tricking, and then all of a sudden you can just land cart dub as opposed to slamming a bunch of times, and you've got a better understanding of it. And the other thing is, there's a Joe Rogan snippet of, I think his name was Pavel.
The guy talking about not training to exhaustion. I saw that again like a few weeks ago, and I was like, damn, when I first watched that, I was like, nah, that's bullshit. And then I watched it recently, and I was like, oh yeah, that's kind of how I train now, and it's much better.
Yeah.
I was really interested, actually.
Yeah, that's something that it's always kind of sat at the back of my head because it's something I struggle with because I get too excited from just doing the thing. But something Kojo and I have spoke about in the past is like how I don't know how our mindset's changed. That now we see it as instead of being a bitch by not training, you're kind of being a bitch by training sometimes because
Yeah.
when it's the smartest thing to do by resting. And then you end up going and training anyway. You're just being a bitch. You're giving into your desires when you know the best thing to do is not train.
Yeah.
So in my eyes, you're a bitch.
Can't wait to look at it.
Yeah.
So you got a couple kids who are mad about you vaping, but it's funny though because Dylan saying that how it's bad it is that you vape said that he's been slamming Scoot Dub over and over. Slamming Scoot Dub over and over is going to mess up your body more than vaping. So
Yeah.
just so
And
you
me,
know, you're doing damage. You're doing damage.
I mean, this is like I don't know. I'm just trying to be the best version of Omid that I can.
I mean, that's doing damage too. I guess.
At least I'm not chain smoking cigarettes anymore.
Yeah.
I used to smoke like a chimney.
No, you're doing good not smoking as much. And yeah, so something. Well,
Yeah, there was another comment.
A couple more. There was one. Oh yeah, this one. Saba says his thanks responded to his question. He said, "Sorry to Kojo, but Omid's style is my favorite," and that leads on something I'm always talking about. Don't ever try and make your style anyone else's favorite. That should never ever be the goal because people always messaging me about their style in relation to what other people think about it. Like, oh, do you think this style looks good? Like, you should never be asking someone which style you should be doing the move. I don't think anyway. I think you should think about it yourself. Like, I think the goal, the one you're going to get the most satisfaction with is being your own favorite tricker, having your own favorite style. Like, you got to just not care what anyone thinks. Like, I'm sure you don't care that if your style's someone's favorite, because you should, like, I'm sure you care more about what you think of it, because that's what really matters at the end of the day.
That's true. I agree wholeheartedly with the last part of it. But with what you originally said, I kind of disagree. Because
what did I say? Which bit?
Just saying that, like, well, okay, let me explain it. I don't think it's a bad thing if you are trying to make your style like somebody else's. However, it depends on when and how you're going about doing that. Because that was the reason that I was able to formulate this image of a style that didn't exist in my own head. I think when you're looking at a complete blank canvas,
you mean like inspiration? I get that. Yeah. Obviously, take inspiration. Like, well, no, I know what you mean with that. Like, for my style, maybe there's certain moves where I'd like this move to be similar to someone else's style. But that's just what I just think. Yeah, use other people to build up your image of what you want that style to be, but it should be your own favorite style. Is what the goal is. Like,
I guess mine was more of like a little bit of a caveat and like a more of a concise. If you're tricking in your first few years and you don't really know what the style you want looks like, then it's fair enough. Like, I had like 5 or 6 trickers, and every time I would discover this new tricker that was like mind blowing to me, that I couldn't stop watching, and I was in love with the way that they moved. It was like I would add their tricking style and like type of moves into this, like, I don't know, weird amalgamation. So I had like 5 of these cool styles mushed together, and that's what created this vision that didn't exist until I tried to create it.
Well, I'll tell you what's interesting that we haven't really talked about much. But you know how we always used to really be hating on our own tricks a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Like saying, oh, I'm so shit when you're at the session, seeing stuff. Sometimes I'd throw up in my mouth when I watch myself do flips. But I didn't really do that anymore. And I think that's something that doesn't come up that much, that I think is quite important. Because you don't want to be deluded thinking your tricks are way better than they are. But I think it's good. You do want to feel positive about your own tricks. Like, try and focus on the improvement. That's what I've been trying to do more lately. So I won't feel bad about even if I'm not good at the trick, even if the way I do it I don't like, it's got a lot of work to be done, I try and get my happiness from like, has it gotten better? Just focus on like improvement rather than the actual product. Because if you're focusing on the product, like you want to do a perfect, like for me, side swipe, I'm trying to make it a lot better. If I was focusing on, is my side swipe perfect? And then I watch it back, no, it's not. That's going to be the case every single session for several years. Yeah. Whereas if I look at it and like, has it gotten better? Sometimes it will have, sometimes it won't have. But you're going to be much more motivated to keep training it and pushing it as hard as possible. And you'll enjoy it way more if you're looking for that improvement, not for like, is it really good? I mean, don't ever worry about how good something is. Just worry like, is it better than it was? And just keep doing that, and eventually, you know.
Yeah, for sure. And I think just another little thing to add to that, like that mentality, it actually helps the tricks as you're doing them as well, which is something that we touched on years and years ago, but we didn't fully think about or understand. And it is weird that you and I haven't discussed this. But yeah, like now, when I watch my tricks, I'm not looking at them thinking, fucking hell, my tricks are absolutely gorgeous. Like,
yeah, but you're not thinking they're shit either. You can just be like, oh, I'm doing that better than I did before. This one I want to focus on a bit more. But like, you're not just hating it before. Like, I can't remember the last time I've gotten angry at a session. I used to get angry all the time. But now I'm like, I don't know, especially after breaking my ankle, then it's like, if I didn't get injured at the session, then great session, no matter how bad the tricks were. Like, I'm just happy to be able to do stuff.
No, it makes a lot of sense. Here's a question, honestly, because I want to know what your answer is to this.
Go on.
Kim said, if you had to choose a tricker to show a person who doesn't trick, who would it be? Besides yourself.
Why am I showing them?
Well, okay, let's say two scenarios. One, because they're interested in getting into tricking, and then two, just because they're like, oh, what's tricking? And that it's just like, you don't really know all that much, and it's just whatever.
I don't know. That's a good question. Because I mean, I'm sure it could be plenty of different people. I think Anis is a good one to show.
Anis is always a good one.
Because it's just, he hits that, like we talked about before, like how there's certain songs that no matter what genre you're into, everyone kind of likes.
Yeah.
And Anis is one of those trickers. He moves in a way where whether you're a free runner or b-boy, you're not into flips at all, you're a gymnast, then everyone kind of likes it. It has that kind of universal appeal to it. And he doesn't overcomplicate it, like doing the most. I feel like it's much easier to absorb if someone's like just doing big extended movements, and if like all these combos have an end, it's not like it doesn't just go on forever.
Yeah.
Not that that's a bad thing.
That's a point actually. I want to talk about that a little bit. Like the way that I'm trying to approach combos now, which I haven't really discussed, but there was a brief moment where I was watching my tricks and I was like, I feel like mainly because of injury and stuff, but I've just dropped the level pretty heavy. Like I used to just be everything needed to end in the biggest power move or start or just have some power move involved. Whereas now, I don't even really think about doing any power moves. I've tried to dumb everything down so that I can get to a point where I can rebuild everything that I've got. So instead of just going gainer to cork to double cork to triple cork, it's almost like I want to go gainer to gainer Arabian, gainer X out, gainer hook, and make every single one of those things, the ones that I really like, and make them showstopper. And then I can move on. And then do double full swing, one of those show-stopping gainer variations, and then keep going like that.
I think you can do. I think we're both trying to do a bit of that. It's a different approach to difficulty, because it's like, for example, this is something that I talked to you about that I'm kind of working towards that I've never seen anyone do anyway. It's like side swipe to GMS Helicoptero.
Yeah.
Now, side swipe, that's like half of a twist with a kick. And then GMS Helicoptero is about half of a twist. But doing that 2-hit combo, I'd say, is much harder than doing gainer switch triple cork. So it's like you can add difficulty in other ways rather than just kind of doing more spins. There's different ways to, like if you did a gainer X out to vanish the GMS Rocket Boy, then that's a lot harder than like a dub or something to do it well anyway.
Well,
Like,
that's the thing.
so it's
That's
just
what I was going to
different
say. You need
approach
to
to
clarify,
difficulty.
because in order to just do it, it's probably not going to be harder just to do these things. However, the
I
way
bet-
that they're done is the most important thing.
Yeah, true actually. No, but I was thinking for it to count as the variation. I'm just thinking about how bad some dubs are.
Well,
Like how
also
bad it
think
can
think
look
about
when
how
you
bad
do
some
it
gamer
terribly.
X outs are.
True. Okay. What are these guys saying? Cruzo Goose says, do you think you could do gainers with the takeoff leg being right, left instead of it being the same?
We spoke about this the
I
other
mean, people
week.
do that. Yeah, I don't know. It depends if you want it. I mean, who is it?
Sylvan.
Sylvan used to do loads of them. What's Sylvan Vasilda? And that's the sort of thing where, yeah, I could train for that, but I don't want to. I just don't really care about that much. But it's like when you do multiple GMSs, because I can do I'm quite good at GMS. Like normally, after not training multiple GMSs, I can normally do at least like 6 if I like try. So I could train to do like 10 GMSs, and people would be, and this is part of breaking away from what people are impressed by and what you actually want to be good at. If I did 10 GMSs, then people would be like, "Oh, 10 that's amazing," or whatever. But really, it looks shit. Like GMS, doing GMS to GMS, it looks nasty. It's like forced and awkward. It doesn't flow. I get it. It's harder than gainer switches, but it doesn't look as good.
Yeah, I've
Really,
never
it doesn't look as good as multiple corks. It looks forced and awkward. That's my opinion anyway. But I can do them, but I don't do them because I don't think they look very good. And the same with the switchy legs gainers. It looks all right. I think if someone got really good at it, then it would look great. Yeah, it would look really cool doing gainers on different legs if you got really, really good at it. But to get really good at something, you got to really want to get good at it and do it all the time. I'm not prepared to do that. So if I was going to do it, then I'd do it bad. So what's the point? I only do things that I'm going to try and like do well.
I'd much rather, instead of seeing someone do, I mean, to be honest, this is the case with like switches as well. Except because my love for switches is more of like a
feeling as well.
It's a purely selfish endeavor. Like I just love the way it feels. But like I'd much rather see somebody do a GMS semi front swing side swipe vanish. Sorry, to GMS scissor. That whole combo, the way that flows, is so nice to me. And you can add some shit on the end or whatever. But like, if that was done in the way that I envision it, that would be super hype, and that would be so much more impressive than seeing someone do a bunch of fucking GMSs or a bunch of switches. And it's like,
yeah,
the amount of time that it would take for you to get to like 15 GMSs or 10 or 20, whatever the number is, like at the end of it, it's kind of like that's more along the side of like endurance sport, whereas the combo that I mentioned, I see more as like the art dance kind of style. You know what I mean? Where it's like, yeah, it's art versus sport at that point. Because I think it is important for the sport for these things to be pushed. And I think I think it is important for someone to do 100 switches at some point.
Yeah.
I think someone should do that. But,
a Johan type.
Yeah. But for me, I would rather spend the time working on that intricate combo that is just going to look fucking nuts when it's done. So, yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm very much into the different kinds of difficulty at the moment. Like, I mean, trying to get like cork Feilong, swing gainer, helicopter. And it's like, that's just a cork variation to, I guess, the same rotation pretty much as like another. It's like doing a cork to cork, but it's way, way harder.
Yeah.
That's what I like about
and
it. It's like
when it's done properly as well.
Double cork, swing, double cork, but it's, yeah.
When it's done properly as well, it's going to look so beautiful.
Yeah,
I really like
legs out.
I really like when I was working on the full Feilong swings. I just didn't spend enough time on them. I need to get back on them. But it's weird mentioning GMS because I was working on GMS semi today, and my confidence in my GMS semi is just completely gone. Because I used to be able to like I could not train it for like 3 or 4 months, and then I could just bang it out in a combo and it'd be fine. Whereas now, I'm just because my mentality towards these things has changed so much. I'm so tentative with it, and I'm so careful that like Yeah, I don't know how I did it before.
It's one to be careful with. It'll come back fine though, I'm sure.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Also,
Question from Kim. What's your favorite skill in tricking? Like, do you prefer twisting, kicks, creativity, etc.? See, I think in terms of watching it, I think I can appreciate pretty much all kinds of tricking if it's done really well. I I like a lot of different really good trickers when I've seen them. In terms of actually doing it, kind of like now that I like doing I like doing hurricane kick a lot. Been doing that a lot lately. So I like doing the kind of bigger kick motions where you got to really force it round. And I do try and train basic kicks, but I don't enjoy them as much. I wouldn't say they're like super fun for me. I just kind of do them so I can make my tricking better. And with creativity, then I've been trying to get more into a type of creativity that most people aren't going to appreciate. Because the thing is, if you do a similar kind of variation or combo to someone else, but you do it in a way that no one else has done it, then no one's going to really care. Whereas if you do something that no one's ever done, even if it's not that hard and not done that well, then everyone's going to be like, oh, that's so creative. And I think that's, yeah, part of the reason why you got to base what you want off your own vision. Because if you go off other people think, then you just be doing weird shit that no one does that doesn't actually look that good because loads of people will be impressed.
yeah.
I don't know. I'm dumbing it down a bit there, but yeah.
I mean, yeah, I get what you say. I don't know what the viewers think because we've had this conversation many times. But like,
yeah.
I don't know. I get it for sure. Like, I've definitely had like weird kind of identity crises through my tricking career, where I'm just kind of like, oh, I just kind of do the same shit, and it's weird how the mentality changed towards that now. But like, even the approach to that question. So like, what is your favorite skill in tricking? I don't have one. Like, the way I would answer that is more like, it doesn't matter what you're doing. It matters entirely how you do it. Because like, on paper, let's say, for example, it's not strictly tricking, but Andre Katosi, if somebody wrote down the combos that he does and told me what they were, like all these different cartwheel and B-kick and aerial
I think it was
variations.
a beginner.
Yeah, I'd be like, what? Is he just fucked in the head or what? But he makes it into such a beautiful combination of movements that like it doesn't matter what you're doing. It's, and also that has going back to the other question about like, who would you show someone who doesn't trick, like a tricker, like someone like Andre Katosi, like it has that worldwide appeal where it doesn't matter what they're doing and what they're doing with their limbs. It's not about difficulty, it's just about a way of moving. And that's something I've always tried to incorporate into my style of tricking.
Like Alex Hunter as well.
Yeah, perfect example.
See, Alex Hunter's, yeah, great example of creativity because he just has gone very much down the path of stuff that he's already got a good base in, already good at, to find all these different layers of variations. Even if it's something as simple as looking in a different spot, then you can create a whole new like aesthetic to the move. Like, you don't always have to do something completely different for it to be creative. It can be doing something the same as everyone else, but in a different way that no one else does it. And
Yeah.
I think that's a harder type of creativity to achieve. I mean, it takes more work to do something that everyone does, but make it into something that's brand new. I think that's harder than just doing something brand new. I mean, something like the macaroon, that's like a really cool brand new thing.
Yeah,
but there's a lot of like variations that
they're few and far between though.
You know,
it's fucking hard.
Yeah.
It's hard. Like, I feel like you have to get to a certain level of understanding of your body in order to really do that well. Like a lot of the time,
being on your hands like Alexander.
Well, there's a question here because I saw this question previously as well, but someone said, how important are the kicks in tricking? From a martial arts point of view, they don't seem as tight. Sorry if it's a new question. And it seems like, I don't know, it was the person that said they've recently started tricking. So, yeah. Well, it depends entirely.
But as tight as who? That's the question. That, like, they don't seem as tight as whose kicks.
Yeah.
Like,
well,
who's are you comparing them to? A martial artist who's been training for 15 years? Because, yeah, probably not. Martial artist who's been training 2 years? there's probably a lot of better, and which tricker, and it's incredibly vague.
The way I see it, it's like you're not. I don't know. It's a different thing. Like it's like you're taking elements of martial arts, but we're like, in my eyes, for me, and I know for you, we're not martial artists.
No.
We just take certain elements of that sport, and it's not even one particular martial art. It's like fucking tons of them. And also Street Fighter. Like you can't take it that seriously. Like if we're taking movements from a Street Fighter game, then you can't be looking at it like it's a serious martial art in the same way that you would jiu-jitsu or karate or anything like that. It's kind of like, to me, it's just a type of movement that is aesthetically pleasing. And to you, that aesthetically pleasing type of tricking could be the super sharp kicks because that's what appeals to you, and that's fair. But you need to make these kind of decisions for yourself. It's not for us to tell you what is good, because it's a subjective, aesthetic-based thing.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. It's like the super sharp kicks with really snappy re-chambers and stuff. Like some people who do that style really well, then I love watching their tricks. But that's not necessarily the style that I want for myself, that I'm even going for. Like maybe I could go all out on that and get to a point where I'm doing these really snappy re-chambers, but there's like, that would mean I wouldn't be training the other things that I really want to do. I'd be training, so like I think it's important to choose what you're actually, like, what you value most. Someone said tricking doesn't teach you to fight, it teaches you to look cool. I don't know about look cool. I mean, it teaches, I'd say it teaches you to overcome challenges. I'd say that's one of the main things it teaches you to do. And to do something hard.
To use your mind and your body to create something that didn't exist before. That's what it is to me, more so than anything else. Like that's what's most exciting to me about tricking.
Yeah, flipping around in a park by yourself doesn't look that cool.
But yeah, it's not.
It's not that cool. It's not that cool.
It's not the ripe old age of 25, just kind of jumping about in the park.
Right, but I tell you what though, I looked cooler than that guy who fell off his bike and rolled down the hill.
Bro, the way you described it sounds like it probably would have been cool, just because he didn't react.
That's true. I don't know.
Because if you can make that
on a lot,
you can make that look intentional, and you're not asked about it. I don't know. In my eyes, you're doing something right.
Fair
I wish
enough.
I could have done that when I fell off my bike. Still got the war wounds from that. Fucking.
You wish you could have gently rolled down a hill. It was like really slow.
Oh, actually, I forgot about that as well. I kind of slipped down a hill on that journey a few hours before. I was going down a hill.
What, the mount? Wait, which journey? The 100 miles
to Bristol, the cycling one. I was going down a grassy hill. I haven't even told you about this. I went down a grassy hill. The second I went over this little lip, I was like, oh, fuck. This is so much steeper than I thought. And also, there were like fucking lumps like this all the way down. So I started going down, and then I was like, shit, I'm going to go like all the way over the handlebars here. And so I started trying to brake, but because it was wet, I just started like slipping down this hill.
Why were you cycling on grass?
So the route that the maps had taken me, didn't realise there were stairs. So I was like, okay, cool, I'll just go down this little hill. It wasn't that. It wasn't that at all. It was like a fucking, you know those skiing things where they've just like got loads of little bumps?
Yeah.
It was like that. I was like, fuck, Jesus.
No. Well, Omid, I got bad news.
What?
Hanzo prefers Omid with a mustache. So
okay. Well, I'm going to drop a bomb then.
You got a problem.
I'm going to drop a bloody bomb. So we've got 30 seconds left, so I'm going to leave it on this. It's my sister's wedding this weekend. I couldn't grow it prior to this. But after the sister's wedding, I think I'm growing the mustache back.
Make it different, though. Make it like a handlebar.
I don't know yet. I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm just going to kind of leave it and see what happens.
Omid, if you watch this on YouTube.
All right. Peace. Hope you enjoyed. Subscribe.